Tonight, 2 people have been charged with criminal harassment after a protest outside the Premier's home.
When people step up to serve, they don't step up to have protests in their home.
Dana Metcalf and Shane Sweeney have been charged with causing a disturbance and criminal harassment after a protest outside the Premier's house in July. I'll have more on that coming up.
It's a gut punch hearing that news.
3 airports are affected: Deer Lake, Gander, and Happy Valley Goose Bay. We'll have the latest on cuts to Jazz Aviation employees. That story's coming up.
Well, behind me is the start of the Mary Webb Gathering Place in Flat Bay. We'll talk to some of her family and find out what this building is all about.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Well, are schools doing enough to keep children safe on the internet? It's a question some are asking after sexual assault charges were laid against a volleyball coach and former substitute teacher. Arlette Lazarenko has that story.
Marcus Hicks is a volleyball coach and a substitute teacher. Yesterday, the RNC charged him with sexual assault. The police say he lured a young man using fake identities online. In response, the English School District issued a statement urging parents to talk to their kids about online safety. Not good enough, says the opposition's education critic.
This is a serious issue. And when you see this, I don't know about anyone else, I mean, it gives me shivers when I see these things. And this is our children. I mean, these are our youth, the most vulnerable in our society, and we can't do better than just giving a memo 8:30 in the morning, and we're not going to comment, and what I like to refer to respectfully as lip service, and it's not good enough. It's just not good enough.
Barry Patton heard from worried parents after the news broke about Hicks' arrest. He says the English School District has to do more to teach children about online safety. Today, the English School District was quick to respond to Patton's complaint.
You know, the most important message there was to highlight to parents who may not have seen it already that it's important to have that conversation with your students. So that's our first and foremost message we did try to get out was, making sure everyone was aware and to have that conversation.
Patton says the school district isn't doing enough to teach internet safety.
Are our children safe, and are they given the proper tools and education, training, to pick up on these things and to protect themselves? I don't think they are.
The district superintendent says that's just wrong. Online safety is already a big conversation in schools.
I mean, we teach online literacy, we teach, safety, social media safety, and, we have a tremendous amount of supports in the system in our safe and inclusive itinerants that are embedded with our schools, work with teachers and students all the time in terms of digital citizenships.
As for Marcus Hicks, the RNC's investigation continues. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Dana Metcalf and Shane Sweeney have been charged with criminal harassment following a protest outside Premier Andrew Furey's house in July. One of those people charged is no stranger to protests. Here and Now's Sarah Blackmore explains.
July 9th, Portugal Cove, St. Phillips.
We got a surprise convoy at Andrew Furey's house.
A protest outside the Premier's home. And their issue? LGBTQ rights in schools. This is a video from Shane Sweeney's Facebook page where he went live during that protest.
Here's our next smoke flare. At Premier Andrew Furey's house, surprise convoy.
Dana Metcalf was also in the crowd.
We do not have our children. We do not stand for SOGI 123. We do not stand for the sexualization of our children.
This scene is part of what led to both being charged with criminal harassment and causing a disturbance. But this was not Dana Metcalf's first time at a protest.
Hi friends, it's Raven here, your East Coast convoy leader out of St. John's, Newfoundland, and your coordinator for Operation Hug a Trucker.
She calls herself Raven and claimed to be the leader for the East Coast contingent of the trucker convoy that descended on Ottawa in January 2022 that was in protest of vaccine mandates.
So just to let you know what my role is with the Operation Hug a Trucker, I'm moral support and education.
Just before she and others protested outside the Premier's house in July, Metcalf made 2 posts on X, formerly known as Twitter. One advertising a protest and one advertising a convoy, claiming to be against the sexualization of children. In a news conference today, Andrew Furey said he couldn't comment on a case before the courts.
when people step up to serve, they don't step up to have protests in their home. Absolutely. To have their children frightened, to have their family frightened. So while I will not comment on any specifics of any legal matter, I will say that I found it as a father, as a husband, as a homeowner, trouble and concerning. And I think regardless of political stripe, the people of the province deserve leaders, deserve representatives that don't have to put up with that abuse.
St. John's lawyer Avril Baker is listed in court filings as Metcalfe's representation. Now, she did not respond to a request for comment today from CBC News. Metcalfe and Sweeney are due back in court in November. And in a statement to the CBC, the Director of Public Prosecution says the file will be prosecuted by a Crown attorney from Nova Scotia to avoid conflict of interest, given one of the alleged victims in this case is the Premier. Sarah Blackmore, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, police are investigating what they're calling the suspicious death of a woman in Deer Lake. The RCMP's Major Crime Unit and K-9 units are involved in that investigation. The police say people living in the Nicholsville Road Extension area will see a police presence while they investigate. Well, the president of Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro is responding to Liberty Consulting Group's decision to sever ties with the Public Utilities Board. On Wednesday, Liberty released a letter announcing the move and expressing concern with Hydro's delays in finding a reliable backup for Muskrat Falls. But Jennifer Williams calls it due diligence and says Hydro is carefully considering its options to avoid future mistakes.
I don't hear anybody in the public saying, can you please rush these decisions? Because we love when you make rush decisions, or we love when you don't do fulsome analysis. The letter talks about this most recent delay. It was a month that we asked for to file a very complicated study. And the reason why we wanted an extra month was to make sure that we had some time to try to take that complicated study and try to put some more publicly digestible summary information together, because for somebody in the public who's interested, who would want to understand that study a bit more, it's really tough to do that. So we wanted an extra month.
Well, the heat, or at least humidity, continued for some of us today. The reason, that area of low pressure, as you can see, spinning just over the Avalon this afternoon. Lots of cloud cover, even some heavy showers as well at times. Today, we can still see some of those showers for the Avalon as we speak. The rest of the province, fairly quiet weather-wise. Up across Labrador, just expecting some showers to move in as we head through the day, but much cooler across the Big Lahen today, only 7 to 9 degrees, and some of that cold air moving in, especially in those onshore winds, anywhere from 10 to 16 degrees today. Temperature topped out at 21. That was earlier today in Gander, but your temperature has been fairly chilly all day, except we do still have some of that warmth and humidity further east. St. John's 20 degrees today. As we head through tomorrow, though, we're going to see that heat back up, climbing through the day. Humidity will return for most of the island as well. We'll talk about the forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, there are job losses at 3 airports in this province due to changes in Air Canada's regional carrier service. 54 jobs are being axed in Deer Lake, Gander, and Happy Valley Goose Bay. Troy Turner reports.
There are 13 jobs being lost in Happy Valley Goose Bay. According to Unifor, which represents workers in those locations, there are another 41 between Deer Lake and Gander. That's according to the union's seniority list. But the company won't confirm that number. Either way, airline jobs are affected by a change in regional carriers.
It's a gut punch hearing that news. There's not much else you can really say. I mean, it's devastating to a lot of them.
In this province, Air Canada has contracts with Jazz Aviation and PAL Airlines. The displaced employees are with Jazz. The company would not do an interview, but according to a statement, it is, quote, making staffing changes required as a result of changes to Air Canada's schedule.
We have multiple grievances that will be going in. I have put the employer on notice. Unifor is not going to sit on the sidelines quietly and watch this happen and just walk away. That's not what we're known for. That's not what we're going to do, and that's not what our members expect of us.
Air Canada would not do an interview. A spokesperson told CBC, however, that capacity, which is how many seats per flight an airline has available on any given route, is not being cut. In fact, he said it's increasing at some airports in this province. But now, some of those flights will be PAL aircraft and not Jazz. The Gander-Halifax route, we are doubling the capacity for November-December of this year compared to the same period last year. For Deer Lake, we have almost tripled capacity, and for Goose Bay to Halifax, there has been an increase. The mayor of Gander said the job loss is difficult, and he feels for the families affected. He's also hoping that future capacity at the airport will not change.
I think the fear I would have is, what does this mean in terms of what's going to happen when the summer season comes around next year? Is it indicative of a longer-term plan?
The mayor says council is hoping to sit down with Air Canada to talk about any possible changes down the road and about how air travel is affected here. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Well, now to Western Labrador. Premier Andrew Furey was there today to announce more money for a program that helps people in the isolated region get medical care. Here Now's Daryl Din has that story.
It's a vital program for anyone living in Labrador or Newfoundland's Northern Peninsula, far from certain specialized health care. The Medical Transportation Assistance Program, known as MTAP, helps pay for flights to appointments or surgeries that can only be done in other parts of the province. But people used to have to pay for those costly plane tickets up front and get reimbursed later. Now it'll be a voucher system.
I recognize the financial burden that it places on patients as a provider myself, and when I assumed this role, really wanted to put a focus on how to alleviate the financial burden. But often people would have to book these tickets for essential medical care on their visas, and it would be reimbursed, but sometimes that would take time and that would restrict their cash flows.
Patients and their escorts will now get $1,000 fast-tracked and upfront to help pay for their first eligible airfare, and they'll get a 75% assistance rate to cover the cost above the $1,000. MHA for Labrador West, Jordan Brown, is happy the voucher system has finally arrived, but is still leery about the bureaucracy that surrounds the program.
Because right now, under the current program, I get people coming to my office day in, day out, getting rejected their claims for the silliest of things, of, ineligible signatures, or, a doctor forgot to check a box. A doctor's having a very busy day, and, they're going to start nitpicking people's forms when how a doctor fills it out. These are the things that MTAP do to block people from getting their claims.
The updated MTAP plan will have no income restrictions, online forms, and you won't have to apply any private insurance before getting reimbursed. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, the Flat Bay Mi'kmaq Band is getting a new cultural center. It's a $2.4 million project that'll be a wellness space for people in the area. And while residents are pleased with the new building, some say it's the name of the center that is most meaningful. Here Now's Colleen Connors explains.
This work is something the Flat Bay Band has envisioned for years. Today, politicians, elders, families gathered for the announcement, making it official. The real highlight of this special day is the name they're giving to this future space, Mary Webb's Gathering Place. Mary Webb was a midwife in the area who helped deliver over 700 babies. She was a healer, a mother, grandmother, who raised animals and used traditional Mi'kmaq medicines. She died in 1978 at 97 years old.
So everyone around here had a job to do, and her job was, I guess, to take care of the people and the women and our people. And she did a very good job of that.
One of Mary Webb's daughters cut the official ribbon to mark the new center. And 3 of her great-granddaughters attended the announcement today.
Wow, it's very impressive.
How come?
Because she was such a wonderful woman. She taught me how to say the rosary as a child. And she used to braid her hair. She spent a lot of time in Corner Brook with my grandmother.
The blueberry picking, and she used to go by dog sled just to be to deliver babies, and I was amazed, just amazed, right? How strong of a woman she is, and what she gave to the community.
Yes.
Webb's family feels proud to know this space will be named after her. It will be a place for events, with a large kitchen to host gatherings, and the center will host teachings of the Mi'kmaq language. It will be a wellness healing center.
People in the area, not just in our own community, but the full, mostly Newfoundland, I guess, but definitely in our region, hold Mary as a woman of healing, a woman of inspiration. So if our building can be inspiring to other women, other people, to be able to say you could come here and you could learn, and we can actually teach them some of the language and teach them some of the culture things that Mary used to do, that would be fantastic.
And as you can see, the Cultural Center construction is a little bit behind schedule, about 4 months behind actually. Mary Webb's family will have to return next summer when the doors officially open on this beautiful new building. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Flat Bay.
So it's a great opportunity to get these tried and true, tough as nails kind of plants.
Heaths, heathers, rhodos, shrubs, all the heritage plants to dress up your garden will be for sale at the Botanical Garden annual fundraiser tomorrow. We'll tell you all about it coming up.
Well, the humidity will certainly stick around for tomorrow. We've got some thunderstorms on the way, though, for parts of the province as we head into tomorrow. I'll get into the details coming up.
Well, Ashley, it is weekend time. How's the forecast shaping up for this weekend?
Overall, not too bad. We'll start to see some of the temperatures climb after a little bit of a cool down today, especially for parts of the island. As you can see, temperatures down to 16, topped out at 16 degrees in Badger today. Very different story from yesterday. Up across Labrador, temperatures still very much in the single digits, and that will continue for the next couple of days. It won't really be until the end of the weekend or the beginning of next week that we start to see some of those temperatures climbing to where we should be sitting for this time of year. Otherwise, temperatures still into the 20s. Port Basque, Stephenville today, Winterland 23 degrees and 20 in St. John's, but that humidex definitely still a factor. So what we've got going on right now, ridge of high pressure to the north, and then we've got that stationary front now that is really showing the difference between the warm air and the cold air. And then we've got that area of low pressure, the tropical air mass to the south of that, which is why we're still seeing some of that humidity, and definitely that boundary is the difference between the two at this point. So if we take a look at what we've got going on right now as far as humidity goes, not a whole lot of it, well, none of it really through central, but still 23 degrees in Stephenville, feels more like 28. You go towards Corner Brook, very different temperature. It is 14 degrees and feels like 16. And then as you head east too, really all along the south coast of the island and then into St. John's, 19 degrees right now, feels more like 25. So once that area of low pressure departs, we're still going to see another ridge build, and that is going to bring in some of that warmer air yet again. And then we're watching this little system here. That is going to bring the risk of some thunderstorms towards western portions of the island as we get into the early morning hours. Right now, it's a beautiful night with lots of sunshine on the west coast, but we're still hanging on to that shower activity for the east. And generally the showers will end, but we're overall looking at the potential for drizzle again through the overnight tonight, as you can see there with those showers. So some showers of story up across Labrador as well. Through the overnight, we'll see those showers become a bit more numerous for the northern peninsula. Same thing for Lab West. Again, otherwise still in that onshore flow. So still looking at the potential for some drizzle fog patches tonight, pretty much all along the northeast coast through to central. Clouds will be on the increase, and there's that risk of thunderstorms that I was talking about for the west coast. Early morning hours, timing of this might be a little off, but expect that. And then as you head towards central, those showers will move in mid-morning. Temperatures tonight a little cooler than they have been certainly for the past little bit, between 12 to about 16 degrees. Northern Peninsula much cooler, single digits tonight. Labrador, same thing. Nain will be the coldest, between 2 or 3 degrees through your overnight period tonight. And other than that, winds not overly impressive, generally out of the northwest for the eastern portions of the island anyway, around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. So as we head through to tomorrow morning, we are looking at that shower activity and potential thunderstorms into the afternoon through central. Then we should actually see that taper off. Up across Labrador, you're going to hang on to that chance of showers through the day. But the eastern portions of the island, we should see some sunshine through the afternoon after a little bit of drizzle in the morning, but it should turn out to be a pretty nice day actually. And then as far as Labrador is concerned, especially towards the north, temperatures are cool enough that we may even see some snow in the higher elevations. Tomorrow's temperatures look like this: 18 to 20 degrees through the day, a little cooler for the northern peninsula as we see that wind shift. The rest of Labrador, you're looking at barely single digits up across coastal areas. Otherwise, the warmest temperatures will be in the west, around 16 degrees through the day. Your winds also a bit breezy out of the west, around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, but eventually, Lab West, you will finally see some clearing skies. So let's look at your forecast. We'll look ahead when I come back.
Well, it's that time of year again. Munn Botanical Garden is having their annual fall plant sale this coming Saturday. Joining me now is Todd Bolins. So Todd, tell us about this sale.
Okay, so the Friends of the Garden, they sell plants basically at the garden all season long. But in the spring of the year and the fall of the year, we have our sort of mega sale, we'll say. So in front of me here now, we have like 6.5 frames, packed with plants. We have perennials, we have small trees, we have lots of shrubs as well. So it's a great combination of different kinds of plants, all of them propagated here in the garden. And a number of these plants are ones that you generally can't get in the nurseries because we grow a lot of plants here at the garden. They're sort of one-offs. And it's a great opportunity then to propagate those plants and make them available to the customers.
And this is always a very popular sale.
It will be a popular sale, and it's one of these things you don't come early. Selections for some of these plants are relatively limited. Some of the plants we only have like a half a dozen of a given plant. And then once they're sold, they're gone, and we may not get them anymore until another year before they're propagated up to the point where we can start to sell them again.
And that's one of the great things about the sale is that you know the plants that you're getting will do well in our environment, right?
Exactly. So these are all tried and trues. We've been growing these here in the garden now for many, many years. Some of them are actually what we consider heritage plants. So they're plants that have been growing in Newfoundland gardens for almost 100 years, and yet the nurseries don't sell them anymore, right? So it's a great opportunity to get these tried and true, tough as nails kind of plants. And again, some interesting plants, again, that nurseries generally don't sell, because a lot of the plants, I will get seeds coming from international seed exchanges from other botanical gardens in the world. And then I'll grow those on, then keep some for the garden, of course, and then the extras go on to the Friends Plant Sale. So it's a great opportunity for the general public to get access to plants they normally would never be able to get.
Is there anything in particular here this year that you're excited about or that people should keep an eye out for?
Well, I would say our favorite plant, or most popular plant that we sell here, are the heaths and the heathers. And so in the frame, just to the side here, we have one full frame that's just devoted to just heaths and heathers. We have at least 15 to 20 different varieties. You're not going to be able to get those kind of varieties in the nurseries. And they're all plants propagated from plants we've been growing here in the garden for many, many years. So I sort of think of the Friends of the Garden plant sales as being the go-to place for heaths and heathers in particular. And we have a broad range of shrubs as well. And as I mentioned, the heritage plants, which are plants that we normally can't see in the local nurseries. But this is a fundraiser for the Botanical Garden and for the Friends of the Garden, which do great work for fundraising for the garden, for projects we want to do here. So, you know, some of the plants may be a little bit pricier right now than some of the nurseries that are selling, but we know they're good plants for this climate. They're ones that are going to survive here. And I said all the proceeds are going to go to the FOG, the Friends of the Garden, and then that will translate them back to the Botanical Garden to help us fulfill any of the mandates we'd like to do, any new gardens we'd like to put in place, and such and such.
Yeah, how important is this fundraiser?
It's a major source of revenue for the Botanical Garden. I do believe that over the years, the Friends have gathered well over $1 million over the last 30 to 40 years. So that's a significant input into the garden, all by a group of volunteers. So, you know, they just come in on their time off, do their work in the garden, usually on Wednesday mornings. They're here for 3 to 4 hours doing their thing. And they do reap great rewards from the amount of work that comes into that. And for a lot of them, it's not even work, because they're all gardeners, and it's just a way for them to sort of stretch their wings and get out of their own gardens, out into the public. It's a great chance for them to get together, sort of chew the fat, so to speak, right. You know, see how things are doing in their own gardens. But at the same time, they're being able to propagate plants that we can sell here then from the Botanical Garden.
Yeah, it's always great to chat with other gardeners and compare notes and all that.
Exactly, right? So it ends up just being like a great 3-4 hour get-together, you know, sort of chew the fat and, you know, and just really enjoy life.
Mm-hmm. And so what are the details of this on Saturday?
Okay, so the sale starts at 9 o'clock and it'll run till noon. And people will sometimes arrive like at 8:30 to sort of start the lineup going, because like I said, it's a first come, first served basis. So those who are early are the ones who are going to probably get the best choice. But generally we have lots of plant material, and even for those people that come in a bit later into the morning, there'll still be a fair amount of plant material available.
And this is cashless, right?
This is a cashless scenario. The Friends will have their sort of a credit card or debit card set up on their iPads, and away to go.
Well, Todd Boland, thank you so much for this and good luck with the sale.
Thank you so much, Carolyn.
It's nice to call your grandparents on a Sunday, but this Sunday in particular is National Grandparents' Day. It's a day to honor and celebrate the role grandparents play in our lives. Our Aoife Alaba asked some grandkids why their grandparents are the best.
Do you guys want to be a part of it? Sure. We're gonna be on TV. Yeah. Sunday is National Grandparents Day, so you're gonna tell me why your grandparents are the best, okay? My grandparents are the best because...
for all the things they've done for me, and they have the best gifts.
My grandparents are the best because they always let me stay at their house. They always make me really good food, and they're very loving and everything.
My grandparents are the best because
they always drive me places, and they kind of just bake me stuff a lot, and they're just really caring.
Complete the sentence. My grandparents are the best because...
They tell the best stories. Stories from their childhood, like working in the farm, doing things like that with their siblings. It makes me feel happy because I feel like I'm interacting with my grandparents, It makes me happy and it makes memories, and that's a good thing.
My grandparents are the best because...
My grandparents are the best because they always bake me cookies, and they always let me come over in Halifax and let me stay over, and they always care for me.
And what message do you want to tell your grandpa?
I love you, and text me whenever, and I can come out to Grand Falls.
What message do you want to tell your grandparents?
That they try their hardest and everyone loves them.
You guys are great.
Well, the Archives and Special Collections at MUN's QE2 Library just acquired a pretty incredible typewriter. It belonged to author Cassie Brown. She wrote Death on the Ice and contributed to publications like Newfoundland Women magazine and the Daily News. And all of that was written on the very typewriter now in MUN's archives. Martin Jones stopped by earlier this week to learn more about it.
Well, Colleen, we'll start with you. What are we looking at here?
Well, I'm so glad that you're here today, and you are looking at Cassie Brown's original typewriter, the typewriter that she used to edit and publish the St. John's Woman, also the typewriter that she used to write most of her books, articles, short stories, television scripts, and radio scripts.
How old is this typewriter?
That is a great question, and there's many theories about how old this typewriter may or may not be. We've got a few Facebook sleuths that are looking into it for us, and they're looking at the typewriter database to figure out, is this from 1919? Is this from the 1930s? Or is it from the 1950s? We do know that it is an Underwood standard typewriter with a double carriage feature.
How did you come to acquire it here at the Archives and Special Collections?
Well, what a fabulous question, Martin. We get so many different ways things come to us, but actually we have one person to thank, and that is Cassie's son, Derek Brown. And he is the one who contacted us to reunite this typewriter with the large collection of Cassie Brown material we already have that we received shortly after her death. So Derek and the family are who we want to thank for donating this to Archives and Special Collections and really to the people of the province.
Derek, sounds like a good time to bring you into the conversation. Why was it important to bring this typewriter and all the other materials for the archives here from your mom?
There was an expression of interest that came to our way, that they had an interest in having her record. And after she passed away, I eventually filled up my minivan and brought the first part here, but there were bits and pieces that didn't make it. So they were put together over the last month. And I asked Colleen here if they were interested in the typewriter that was used for all this. And she hummed and hawed a little bit. But she said, maybe we do want it.
When the family came to the archives and said, would you be interested, why was there, as Derek said, hemming and hawing at first?
Well, normally when we think about a typewriter, an object, we think of that as an artifact that would go into a museum. So that was my first thought, is this the right place? Is Archives and Special Collections the right place for this object, this instrument? And the more I thought about it and the more Derek explained that this is an extension of Cassie, that this was a part of her work and this was her chosen instrument, she went back and forth and used other typewriters, but this is the one that the bulk of her work originated from. So I thought really from an archival standpoint, we're all about context and providing context to material. So I thought if this goes to a museum, it loses the context of the body of work. So that's why we chose to keep it with everything together.
It is Cassie's typewriter. And that was the instrument. So it's all her thoughts and ideas were brought to fruition and life.
Really, she was creating an archive in itself. So those records that she was able to pull together and gather, she also interviewed people, witnesses, survivors. These voices are thanks to her that we have them recorded, and these names are now known by people. We know a lot of the survivors of the 1914 sealing disaster because of Cassie Brown. So Cassie Brown has brought so much to the surface of Newfoundland culture and heritage, and we owe her a huge, huge thanks and debt and gratitude, and she pushed this. I really got to say, I'm so thankful for her work and appreciative of everything that she's done, because without her, we really would lose a whole sense of our culture and identity.
Oh, great story. Well, still with news at MUN, Memorial University is launching what it calls community hubs. There are now 17 of them across the province. They're spaces in some of the more rural areas where people can access the internet and other technology. On CBC Radio's The Signal today, host Adam Walsh spoke about the new hubs with Boyan Fierst and Ken Carter, both with MUN.
The community hubs are a partnership between Memorial University and various organizations around the province. It started, and Ken can talk more about this, as a project out of Granville campus during the pandemic, but it has since grown into this really amazing network of 17 hubs that all do really different programming and really interesting things, and are a fantastic connection for Memorial to the communities.
So Ken, bring me back to the pandemic here and how this got started.
We were originally looking for a place for our students to go and access internet and have some capacity, and it quickly grew beyond that. When we got into communities, we and brought grad students and faculty up to some of the sites we had. Just cool stuff happened, some interesting things. Brady Reed and Kelly Vauden were big on the West Coast setting us up. We've fundamentally believe that it's important that MUN have a presence in rural Newfoundland, and so this is really a critical kind of thing for us. We've been very much rural oriented at Grenfell. We're in the middle of the West Coast, and so it's been important to set up these collaborations, partly about what can we do at Memorial, but it's really important that the communities themselves we're listening, we're hearing, we're learning, and our grad students and our faculty are having opportunities for research and to get out and do interesting things. It's just adds so much to a master's or a PhD or to be able to work directly with community.
The range of this is interesting because I was looking at, and I want to build on what I'm about to say, but I was looking at the province's release, and I think in our discussion today, we can really expand on what it said, because it says there are currently 17 hubs throughout the province, each with high-speed internet access, digital equipment, and multi-purpose space for study, meetings, and workshops.
Well, the interesting thing was how quickly people signed on and how much there was real energy out there to do this sort of thing. There was a call, and a bunch of communities came forward, and they're talking about a lot of different stuff. We've got Indigenous communities on the West Coast and in Labrador. We've got, more rural outport places.
Public libraries.
Yeah, and CBDCs, the Business Development corporations. So it's a really wide array of partners, and I think that is really going to support each other in terms of the skills and the understandings and everything else that they bring to the table.
Hurricane Fiona, the storm that ravaged Port aux Basques. A year later, rebuilding homes, rebuilding lives.
Still can't believe it happened. The anxiety feeling is still there.
This is trauma. This is something that's changed all these people's lives.
The people and the place. Fiona forever changed Port aux Basques. Special coverage starts September 18th on Here and Now.
Statistics Canada says the Canadian economy added 40,000 jobs in August, exceeding the expectations of economists. The biggest increases were in construction and in professional and technical services. But even with the gains, the unemployment rate was practically unchanged, in part at least because of ongoing immigration. The Bank of Canada's hopes for a cooling economy won't be encouraged by today's wage numbers. Annually adjusted, they add up to 4.9% of an increase. Well, many universities and college students across the country are feeling the effects of the housing shortage, including right here in this province. Some still don't have a place to live, even though classes are already underway. CBC's Kayla Hounsell has more on the situation in Halifax.
Isadora Schumann Munoz is focused on her studies now, but it hasn't been easy.
It's been so hard to find a place. I've been bouncing from residence to houses were really bad.
She says the search is a struggle.
I even saw an ad renting a hallway for $400. A hallway.
There are 6 universities in Halifax. The city is seeing a population boom that began during the pandemic. Since then, wildfires destroyed homes and put another 150 people in the rental market, and the vacancy rate is 1%.
So my roommate actually ended up looking on Airbnb to see if they would switch to an 8-month lease.
This student lives with her parents in Bridgewater, 100 kilometers away.
So what would you do if your parents didn't live here in Nova Scotia?
That's a really good question. I probably wouldn't know what to do.
Tara Carter wound up homeless a few months ago and says there are still students who have no place to live.
I let them borrow my tent for a couple nights. They were camping out in a friend's backyard.
In fact, the housing situation has become so desperate, this university, the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, recently reached out to an emergency women's shelter, asking for help.
So I was like, are you joking?
The nonprofit says it is overburdened. The school says it wasn't asking directly for housing, just advice.
Here is another sign of the disaster that we are experiencing here in Halifax and probably across the country.
They're your students. How are you helping them?
Right, so each of us has a housing office directing students, giving them the tools that they need to be successful in the search for affordable housing in the domestic market. In a longer term, we're all working to increase capacity.
For now,
I think we're all just trying to help each other.
So all students have somewhere to sleep. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Canada's men's basketball team came up a little short in their semi-final game of the World Cup.
To stick with them for 40 minutes and make every possession tough. So how do you do that? He said by staying committed, staying locked in, and communicating.
Earlier this morning, Canada lost to a tough Serbia team, 95-86. The loss ends a historic run at the World Cup, which saw the team qualify for the Olympics for the first time since the year 2000. Canada is not done yet, though. They will play for bronze against the United States on Sunday. Well, it's Friday, so let's find out who's celebrating. 50th anniversary greetings going out to Dorothy and Randall Marsh of Georges Brook. Wishing John and Maxine Daw from Coley's Point a happy 55th anniversary. Happy 53rd anniversary to Boyd and Evelyn Brushett of Creston North. Congratulations to Fred and Rosalie Foley on their 52nd anniversary. Happy 67th wedding anniversary to John and Elsie Noble of Dover. Chris and Pauline Hayes of Howley are marking 50 years of marriage. Congratulations. Wishing Michael and Alvina George of Corner Brook a happy 59th anniversary. Happy 60th anniversary to Bertha and Boyd King of Paradise. Congratulations to Bert and Marina Short, who are celebrating their 64th anniversary tomorrow. Best wishes to John and Joan Coates of Brown's Arm, who are celebrating 60 years of marriage. Happy 58th anniversary to Ivan and Glenda Penny of Milton. Anniversary greetings going out to Absalom and Evelyn Burton from Pollard's Point. They've been married 53 years. Happy 50th anniversary to Harvey and Sheila Payne of Corner Brook. Congratulations to Gerald and Rosanna Fudge of Ramia on their 60th anniversary. Happy 65th anniversary today to Ross and Shirley Steele from St. John's. And it's a golden anniversary for Walter and Mary Keeping in Grand Bank. Wishing Kevin and Mary Walsh of St. John's a happy 59th anniversary. Best wishes to John and Daphne Roberts in Happy Valley Goose Bay, who are celebrating 57 years of marriage. And now to some birthdays. Happy 90th birthday to Azaria Coombs of Upper Island Cove. Wishing Wilfred and Ansel Moss a happy 90th birthday. They're twins from Sandy Cove. Happy 99th birthday to Edith Head in Grand Falls, Windsor. Best wishes to Eric Saunders of St. Lunaire, who's celebrating his 94th birthday. Happy birthday to Bert Paddock of Long Island, now living in Corner Brook. He's turning 97. Birthday greetings to Chesley Howell in St. John's. He's celebrating his 104th birthday this week. Hope you had a great one. Happy birthday to Ray Hiscock. He just turned 90. Hope you have a great birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Norm Wyatt of Pilley's Island. He turns 92 tomorrow. Wishing Phyllis Gillum of Curling a happy 90th birthday. And a special happy birthday to Mont Lingard of Badger, who turns 93 today. And happy birthday to Dorothy Pryor of Grand Bank, now living in Paradise. She's turning 97. Lots of love from family and friends. Another fine crowd. Congratulations once again. So we're going to look at the long-range forecast, and you're still keeping an eye on Hurricane Lee, right?
I am, yes. Hurricane Lee rapidly intensified yesterday. Let's take a look at where the storm is sitting right now. So Hurricane Lee currently a Category 4. It was a Category 5 earlier today, which is the top of the Saffir-Sansom can't say that anymore. The scale, but 295 kilometer per hour wind gusts right now. As we head through the weekend, still expected to stay a major hurricane, Category 4 hurricane, at some point making a turn as we head into the beginning of next week. There is a reason why the National Hurricane Center only does 5-day forecasts and the cone gets bigger. It's because after that, the uncertainty gets fairly large. Now, there's 5 things that the forecasters are watching. First, there's going to be a trough over the western, or over the Great Lakes, I should say. So the strength and position of that will matter. There's also a ridge of high pressure over Atlantic Canada. The strength and position of that ridge will matter. That will determine the speed and the timing of Lee. The other thing that forecasters are keeping an eye on is Margot. There's another hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. So the strength and track of Margot may come into play as well as we get past that 5-day trend or 5-day forecast. So all of these things are to say there is still very much uncertainty in just what's going to happen as we head into next week with Lee, but keep an eye on the forecast. As far as our forecast goes over the next 5 days, We're looking at temperatures generally in the 20s as we head through to Sunday. Nice for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland, generally just cloudy. As we head into Monday, we're looking at a little bit of a dip in those temperatures, but still right around where we should be sitting this time of year with some cloud cover. For Tuesday and Wednesday, we get a bit more unsettled, and this is also when we're going to see those temperatures dip, especially as we head into the middle of next week. And we're looking at that rain returning as well. Now, for central Newfoundland, we're looking at that potential for thunderstorms tomorrow, like I mentioned, but as we head through to the beginning or the middle of next week, we will see those temperatures drop into the teens, and your overnight lows are also going to drop into the single digits at this point. So expect some periods of rain on Tuesday, showers on Wednesday, and a pretty similar forecast as we look towards western Newfoundland as well, with our overnight lows between 9 and 10 degrees by the time we get there. And then for eastern Labrador, some showers certainly possible for Tuesday. Wednesday looks nice at this point, and a nice stretch of weather for western Labrador, but your temperatures will be in the teens. This shot today, very dramatic evening in CBS a couple of days ago. Paul captured this lovely shot, and if you have any that you would like to share with us, you can send them to Facebook, my Facebook, but the best place is to email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Ah, that's so nice. That looks like it should be like a postcard for some sort of inspirational phrase or something like that.
Quote.
Or maybe
That's
the angels are up there singing. I don't know. It was like really a nice shot.
Even better in the shot there.
Yeah, and I guess it's soon going to be time to get our sweaters and scarves out. My goodness, with the temperatures dipping a little bit next week.
As we head into fall.
Yeah, gonna get out and enjoy Sunday because that's looking great.
It is. It's looking lovely.
Well, that's it for us on this Friday evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope to see you again on Monday.
Good night.